Sairam students, today's class we will continue with our lesson The Making of a Scientist by Robert Peterson. Before we begin, just a short recap of what we did in our last class. We read about a boy, Richard Ebright, who was a very bright student. He lost his father at a very young age. His mom was his great supporter. He was a keen learner. He was curious to know more and more things. And also, he was fascinated towards butterflies, which eventually opened the world of science for him. When he was just in grade 2, he had identified 25 species around him. And he thought that is the end to the butterflies. There are no more species, which could be found. And that is when his mother gifted him a book, The Travels of Monarch X. And that was a turning point in his life. His mother got in touch with Dr. Urquhart and he started to tag butterflies. After a short period of time, he lost interest in that as well because he didn't find much results. Then when he was in grade 7, he participated in the county science exhibition where he lost. The reason he lost was he had just shown that how frog tissues will look under a microscope. And why did everybody else win something or the other? Because they actually performed experiments. When he realized this, he also did the same. And then there was no looking back. When he was in grade 8, he decided to understand, which disease is killing monarch caterpillars. And that is where, students, we stopped in our last class. Just keep a book and a pen handy to jot down the important points. Let's get started with today's session. Ebright thought the disease might be carried by a beetle. So what he thought was this disease would be, because of beetle. He tried raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles. I didn't get any results, he said. But I went ahead and showed that I had tried the experiment. This time I won. So he tried to raise caterpillars in the presence of beetles. And he did not get any result. But he went ahead and showed that he had tried the experiment and he won that time. The next year, his science fair project was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. So, his next year's project was to test the theory that, viceroy and monarchs, two different types of butterflies, but the viceroy butterflies, they copy the monarchs. The theory was that viceroys look like monarchs because monarchs don't taste good to birds. Viceroy, on the other hand, do taste good to birds. So that was his project the next year, that the viceroy butterflies, they copy the monarchs. And why does this happen? Because they want to save themselves from the birds around. So he also said that monarchs, they don't taste good to birds, whereas the viceroys, they do taste good. So the birds prefer to have viceroy than monarchs, and that's the reason they are copying the monarchs. So the more they look like monarchs, the less likely they are to become a bird's dinner. So when these viceroys, they copy monarchs, they are less likely to be eaten up by the birds. Ebright's project was to see whether in fact birds would eat monarchs. He found that starling would not eat ordinary bird food. So starling is a type of a bird, and he found out that starling would not eat any ordinary food. It would eat all the monarchs it could get. So, what was the starling eating? It was eating all the monarchs it would get. Here, students, I have a photograph of a viceroy and monarch. The upper one is a monarch, and the below one is a viceroy. Ebright said later, research by other people showed that viceroys probably do copy the monarch. So, other people, when they did research, they proved that yes, the viceroys, they do copy the monarchs. This project was placed first in the zoology division and third in the overall county science fair. So his project got first prize in the zoology division and third prize in the county science exhibition. In his second year in high school, Richard Ebright began the research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. So, the second year of high school, his next research work was to understand more about butterflies, which led to the discovery of an unknown insect hormone. Indirectly, it also led to his new theory on the life of cells. So this particular research work, it led him also to a new theory of life cells. The question he tried to answer was simple. What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa? So that is what was his research work all about, which led to the discovery of unknown secret insect hormone and also to his new theory of life of cells. And the question was, on the monarch pupa, what is the purpose of the 12 gold spots? Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental, Ebright said. But Dr. Urquhart didn't believe it. To find the answer, Ebright and another excellent science student first had to build a device that showed that spots were producing a hormone necessary for the butterfly's full development. So basically everybody else thought, that the spots are only for decorative purpose, for the butterflies to look very attractive. But Dr. Urquhart didn't believe this, and to find the answer to this question, what he did was, he, along with his other science student, he built a device that showed that spots were producing hormones. So he built a device wherein he could show others that, those spots are not for ornamental purpose. They have some other purpose as well. And what was that? They are secreting some hormone which was very important for the development of butterflies. This project won Ebright first place in the county fair and entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. So this project of understanding of the 12 gold spots, this particular won first place in the county fair, and he also got a chance to participate in the International Science and Engineering Fair. There he won third place for zoology. In the international fair, he got third prize for the same project. He also got a chance to work during the summer at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. So during his summer vacation, he got a chance to to work at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. And what did he do there? Basically, he used the laboratory for entomology. What is entomology? To study more and more about insects. As a high school junior, Richard Ebright continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. That year, his project won first place at the International Science Fair and gave him another chance to work in the Army laboratory during the summer. So in his high school, he continued with his experiments On the monarch pupa, again his project won the first place, and he got another chance to work in the army laboratory during the summer. In his senior year, he went a step further. He grew cells from monarch's wings in a culture and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spot. So the following year, he thought of doing something different. And what was that? He grew cells from monarch's wing in a culture. Culture is basically in a set temperature. When you allow things to grow, that process is culture. And what happened in that? When he grew cells of monarch's wing in culture and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. This project won first place for zoology at the international fair. He spent the summer after graduation doing further work at the Army laboratory and at the laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. So again, this particular project, he got first prize in the international fair, and then he again continued during, after his graduation, he continued to work at the Army laboratory as well as the as well as the laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. The following summer, after his freshman year at the Harvard University, Ebright went back to the laboratory of the Department of Agriculture and did more work on the hormone from the gold spot. So, from there, after he graduated, he enrolled himself in the Harvard University, and after his freshman year is after his first year, he went back to the laboratory of the Department of Agriculture, and there he undertook more and more research work on the hormone from the gold spots. Using the laboratory's sophisticated instruments, he was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure. Sophisticated instruments is advanced instruments. So what he could do is he could identify the hormone's chemical structure. A year and a half later, during his junior year, Ebright got the idea for his new theory about cell life. It came while he was looking at the X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. So after 1.5 years, what happened when he was looking at the X-ray photographs of chemical structure of a hormone, he got the idea of about theory. He got an idea about cell life. When he saw those photographs, he didn't shout Eureka or even I have got it. But he believed that along with his findings about insect hormones, the photos gave him the answer to one of biology's puzzles: how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. Thus, DNA is the blueprint for life. So he says that when he was going through the photographs, when he was going through the X-ray photographs, he found out something, but he did not shout Eureka. Now, why Eureka? Eureka is basically, it's a cry of triumph. And when you discover something, this is basically attributed to Archimedes. Whenever he discovered something, he used to shout Eureka. But Richard Ebright, he didn't shout Eureka, nor did he say I have got it when he found out something. He believed that along with his findings about insect hormones, the photo gave him the answer to biology's very important question. And what was that question? How can the cell read the blueprint of its DNA? So what's a DNA? Basically, it's deoxyribonucleic acid. So he just tried to understand that how can how can the cell read read the blueprint of DNA, and this DNA it carries all our genetic information. Clear? Now in the cell we have a nucleus. In that we have chromosomes, and chromosomes have our DNA, which carry all our genetic information. So, DNA is a substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. This helps us to understand, to which organism the particular cell belongs to. Thus, DNA is the blueprint for life. So, what's a blueprint? Basically, it's a design plan because it carries all genetic information. Ebright and his college roommate James R. Wong worked all that night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules to show how it could happen. Together, they later wrote the paper and explained the theory. So, the following year, Richard Ebright and his college roommate, that is James R. Wong, they worked all night and they drew pictures and constructed plastic models of molecules to show how this particular thing could happen. And later on, they wrote a paper, that's a research work that they did. They wrote a paper on that and they explained their theory. Surprising no one who knew him, Richard Ebright graduated from Harvard with highest honors, second in his class of 1510. So he says people who don't know, he's saying that Richard Ebright, he graduated from the Harvard University with the highest honors. He stood second among the 1510 students. He went on to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. There he began doing experiments to test his theory. And then later on what happened? He became a researcher at the Harvard Medical School, and he started to test his experiments of this particular theory. If the theory proves correct, it will be a big step towards understanding the processes of life. It might also lead to ideas for preventing some types of cancer and other diseases. Diseases which are hereditary. People may identify, the reason for it, and it can be prevented. All of this is possible because of Ebright's scientific curiosity. His high school research into the purpose of the spots on a monarch pupa eventually led him to his theory about cell life. So all this began with just a research on butterflies. He wanted to understand about the spots, if you remember, and he just kept on doing research after research, which eventually led him to his theory about cell life. Richard Ebright has been interested in science since he first began collecting butterflies, but not so deeply that he hasn't time for other interests. Ebright also became a champion debater and public speaker and a good canoeist and all-around outdoors person. He is also an expert photographer, particularly of nature and scientific exhibits. So Richard Ebright is not a bookworm. He is not only into butterflies, he is not only into science, but there is something else he was interested into. He became a champion debater and a public speaker. And he was also a good canoeist. What's a canoeist? Basically the one who paddles a canoe. And canoe is a small light boat. He was also an expert photographer of nature and scientific exhibits. In high school, Ebright was a straight A student, which means he was a brilliant student. Because learning was easy, he turned a lot of his energy towards the debating and Model United Nations Club. So learning was very easy for him. He didn't find any problem while studying. So what he did was, he diverted most of his energy towards debating and Model United Nation clubs. He also found someone to admire, Richard A. Wyrer, his social studies teacher and advisors to both clubs. So he was very fond of his social studies teacher. Okay, and this social studies teacher was, was basically, he was the advisor to both the clubs. Mr. Wider was the perfect person for me then. He opened my mind to new ideas. He says that this person, when he came into my life, he was the perfect person at that point of time. Why? Because he opened his mind to different and new ideas. Richard would always give that extra effort, Mr. Wider said. What pleased me was this person who put in 3 or 4 hours at night doing debate research besides doing all his research with butterflies and other interests. So even Mr. Wider has something positive to say about Richard Ebright. And what does he say? That Richard always put that extra effort, and that is what pleased him. He says on one hand, he used to he used to practice for 3 to 4 hours. He used to put in a lot of work in for the research work, for the debate research that he used to do, and simultaneously he used to also carry on with his research work on butterflies and other interests as well. Richard was competitive, Mr. Wider continued, but not in a bad sense, he explained. Richard wasn't interested in winning for winning's sake or winning to get a prize. So, what does Wider say? He says that Richard was very competitive, but not at all, not in a negative sense. He was not competitive to get more and more prize. He wasn't interested in winning for winning's sake. He just didn't win, just for the sake of winning or to get a prize. Rather, he was winning because he wanted to do the best job he could, because he wanted to give in his 100%. He wanted to be the best of himself. If, after putting 100% efforts, he wanted to see where he could stand. For the right reasons, he wants to be the best. He wanted to be the best. Yes, but it was not for any wrong purpose. It's all for good reason. And that is one of the ingredients in the making of a scientist. Start with a first rate mind, add curiosity, and mix in the will to win with right reasons. So he says that is how one can be a scientist. Okay, for making a scientist, you require 3 ingredients, 3 qualities a person should have to be a scientist. And what are they? First is first rate mind, intelligent mind. You should be very intelligent. Second is add curiosity. You should be very curious to know more and more things. And third is mix in the will to win. Yes, that's the third quality. But will to win, not for any negative thing, but for all right reasons. Ebright has these qualities. From the time the book The Travels of Monarch 10 opened the world of science to him, Richard Ebright has never lost his scientific curiosity. So like I told you students, this Travels of Monarch X, this opened the world of science for him. And then there was no looking back after that. He has never lost his scientific curiosity. Clear? That's it for this session, students. I'm done with the lesson. We will quickly go through the value points. If you wish to, students, you can jot them down as well. I hope, students, the lesson is very clear to all of you. And now, after this video link, you have another link wherein you have to click and answer to the set of questions given there. We'll catch up soon. Till then, you will take care of yourself. Sai Ram and bye-bye.